All right, so today we're talking about ending the war and dropping the bomb. So over in Germany, Hitler had attempted a last offensive against the Allies at Antwerp, Belgium, known as the Battle of the Bulge. General Patton responded by hitting fuel depots and Allied troops. Hitting fuel depots and Allied troops broke through the German lines within days. The Soviets attacked Germany in the east and the Allies attacked in the west. That's called the two-front war, where you're getting attacked from two sides. Knowing he was near defeat, Adolf Hitler committed suicide and Germany surrendered. So let's look at the Battle of the Bulge. So this is a picture from the actual battle, or they're marching to the battle. And you can see that those are soldiers all the way down. So American soldiers trudged through the slush in Belgium during the winter of 1944 to 45. The Allied invasion of Europe the previous summer was the beginning of the end of World War II. In mid-December 1944, the Germans launched a final offensive assault in Belgium known as the Battle of the Bulge. Their failure to reclaim the port of Antwerp could seal Germany's fate. After the success of the Allied forces at the Battle of the Bulge, Germany was invaded. During the invasion, the Soviets attacked from the east and the Americans from the west. On April 30th, Hitler committed suicide. Shortly thereafter, his successor, the Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, agreed to, and that should be General Eisenhower's terms, not president, of unconditional surrender to the Americans, British, and Soviets. The war in Europe was over. And let me show you, I don't think I have it pulled up. So this is what the Allied advances looked like. So you'll see, so here's from the United States. So we went through Africa first, up through Italy. Soviets came over, up through France, Germany, or I'm sorry, Britain came down. So you can see we were literally attacking from all sides in Germany. So there was no way that the German troops were going to be able to fight on that many sides. Let's see. Now we're looking at Japan. Just before Germany surrendered, President Roosevelt died of a stroke, and Vice President Harry S. Truman became president. The difficult battle at Iwo Jima resulted in many Japanese civilian deaths. Truman ordered that atomic bombs be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, we had never dropped these bombs before. These were a special wartime project called the Manhattan Project. We had tested them, but in the desert, where nobody lives, and on islands where nobody lives. They tested it on an island called Bikini Atoll. The island doesn't exist anymore because of that test. It literally vaporized the island. After Japanese surrender, an international military tribunal was created to punish Germans and Japanese leaders for war crimes. So, let's see. Iwo Jima. So this is a famous picture. I'm sure you guys have seen it in lots of movies, and it's on the back of some coins, I think. This famous photograph of U.S. Marines raising the American flag over Mount Suribachi was taken on the island of Iwo Jima on February 23, 1945. The image earned the American photographer Joel Rosenthal a Pulitzer Prize. U.S. Pacific Forces wanted the volcanic island of Iwo Jima because it would grant them greater opportunity to attack Tokyo, which is on Japan Island. The previous island the U.S. bombers had launched attacks from, Saipan, was 1,500 miles from Tokyo. In comparison, Iwo Jima was just 650 miles from Tokyo. Why that's important? It's all having to do with fuel. Because at that point in time, they didn't have the capabilities of refueling in the air, so the planes could only do one mission. So it was all about timing and fuel and being able to get back and forth because they didn't want to have mishaps of crashing or running out of fuel. Iwo Jima was difficult to attack because the Japanese had established an elaborate defense system from underground tunnels and cave hideouts. The Japanese also used kamikaze squads to attack the advancing American forces, and we talked about the kamikazes before. The assault on Iwo Jima began on February 19th, 1945. Allied forces would not fully secure the island until March 16th. During the battle, more than 6,000 U.S. Marines lost their lives, as well as nearly all of the 20,000 Japanese defenders. It's a lot of people to die. Oh, I wanted to show you this. I pulled this up. So this gives you an idea of how far in Europe the German offense had spread. So here, this is what we know Germany and Italy to be, and this is when they controlled parts of North Africa, Albania. So this is the Axis powers at the beginning of the war. (1942), 3 years later. This is how much land Germany controlled. So you can see Hitler's offense had really taken hold. They were literally like going to take over the world. They had taken over a lot. So that's why we were like, okay, we gotta do something about this. All right, so let's watch this video. This is a short video that kind of details dropping the bomb. Make sure that I'm not muted.
I saw an aircraft, like a tiny silver drop, entering the sky above Hiroshima. I instantly recognized it as an American plane, as no Japanese aircraft could fly at that altitude at the time. It was just one plane, so I assumed that it was passing by as usual.
And I was counting. 1, 2, 3.
I was wiping the desktop. That was when the bomb was dropped.
So once they dropped that bomb, they had to hightail it out of there because they didn't want to be around when that bomb was going to explode. What's that? Space? Space? No. It's really high in the atmosphere.
Now, it took about 45 seconds from the time the bomb left the airplane until it exploded. And I think there wasn't a man in the airplane that wasn't either timing it with his watch or counting or doing something. I was sure the bomb was a dud. I was sure it wasn't going to work.
She's driving a bus.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
So that's the bomb. So this is Nagasaki after the bomb dropped. There were buildings there. The atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima was about 10 feet long and weighed 8,000 pounds, and it had the explosive power of 12.5 kilotons of TNT, dynamite. The bomb actually exploded about 1,885 feet above the ground. In comparison, the atomic bomb that caused the explosion in Nagasaki, which is pictured, was about 11 feet, 4 inches long, and weighed nearly 9,000 pounds, and it had the explosive power of 22 kilotons of TNT. The Nagasaki bomb exploded at approximately 1,625 feet in the air. The point at which the bomb exploded, called the hypocenter, raised the air temperature to thousands of degrees Celsius. This was hot enough to immediately turn living tissue, wood, and cloth to ash. And I'm not even kidding. This is pictures of people that were literally vaporized. You can see their shadows. Look at this one. There was a little kid there playing jump rope. Literally vaporized. The ladder. There's a guy. Vaporized. There was a soldier sitting there. Literally vaporized. Here's a bicycle. That's what it did to the bicycle. The Hiroshima bomb exploded above an area where there were many businesses and administrative buildings. Shockwaves and fire destroyed about 48,000 buildings within a 5-mile radius of the hypocenter. So it was above businesses and administrative buildings. So they purposely dropped this bomb on civilians. In Hiroshima, 4 square miles of the city were completely destroyed, and roughly half the people within 3/4 of a mile where the bomb exploded were killed. In Nagasaki, an estimated 74,000 people were killed, and the explosion was felt as far as 40 miles from the epicenter. The survivors of both blasts dealt with both immediate and long-term radiation poisoning. This included children being born long after the bombs were dropped, so it was passed through generations. And so I have a bigger image of this. There it is. So this kind of gives you an idea. So that's where the bomb was dropped, ground zero. At least 70,000 people were killed in the initial blast, and many thousands more died during the following months from radiation sickness. So there's where, so the orange is where like buildings were just completely destroyed. So that would be about the size of Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. All right, on August 14th, 1945, the Japanese surrendered unconditionally to the Allied powers, finally putting an end to World War II. Celebrations of victory over Japan, or VJ Day, erupted around the world. So when we celebrated victory over Europe, it was called VE Day, Victory Europe. Japanese representatives General Umezu and Foreign Minister Shigemitsu were present to sign the terms of unconditional surrender aboard the USS Missouri on September 2nd, 1945. U.S. General Douglas MacArthur and Admiral Chester Nimitz were at the ceremony representing the United States. As the Japanese officially surrendered, American fighter planes flew in formation overhead. So all those little black dots are American fighter planes. They look like birds, but they're planes, I promise. Privates Frank Tassetta and Frank Mancuso are cheered by spectators during a VJ Day celebration. So those are the people. American service members celebrate as they flash copies of a newspaper proclaiming peace after Japan's unconditional surrender. This iconic photograph by Alfred Eisenstadt was taken in Times Square during the VJ Day celebration. In 2005, a 25-foot bronze replica called Unconditional Surrender by sculptor Seward Johnson was debuted in Times Square to commemorate the 60th anniversary of VJ Day. So now what you're going to do We go into U.S. history. On your announcements, it's this blue color that we're on now. Complete the war ends reading essentials, answer discussion question 3.7, take the quiz, and then start on the end of war in Europe module on Ingenuity.